I don't think that many Christians are familiar with this fact, but now that we speak about extra biblical influence regarding our faith, we have Aristotle's influence on Christian theology, especially to systematic theology, when he came to that term uh, of this supreme deity being called the unmoved mover. This
Right.
is something we use in systematic theology today. Or, for example, I remember as someone who used to listen to a lot. Dr. William Lane Craig, because back
All
in the
right.
days I was obsessed with apologetics. And then he says, hey, I love Kalam cosmological argument, but
Right.
I
Right.
didn't invent it. I just expand on it, but it's actually coming from the Muslim world. And
Right.
there's
Godly.
no problem with using all these sources to change them, perfect them, edit them, but then use them for God's glory. Or also when we read Plato's myth of creation, which is called Timaeus or
Timaeus.
Timaeus,
Right. The Timaeus. Right.
yes, okay. That that Genesis account, the account of creation, is so similar to Tolkien's Silmarillion
Yes.
account of Genesis, and also the Genesis chapter 1. And I'm just in awe because I found this in your book, and I was I mean, there's no way when you read Plato, who came 4 centuries before Christ and who
Right.
did not read Old Testament, and when you read Genesis, there's no way you can tell that these things are a matter of coincidence. So I think that in a way, God did reveal himself to the ancients.
I think so. I mean, it just it fits. God did not leave himself without a witness. Paul says earlier, I think it's Acts 16 or 15, but he sent rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. God speaks. I mean, a good example is Moses was guided by his pagan father-in-law, Jethro. Jethro told him, you can't take care of all these people. Delegate power, as we would say today. Set up other judges. And he took his advice, the advice of a pagan. Because, I mean, again, Romans 1 says that the pagans are without excuse. How can they be without excuse? Well, because God has shown forth his power and majesty in creation, right? That is why they are without excuse, because God shows forth his power. And then in chapter 2 of Romans, he says that when the Gentiles who are without the law do something that's right, they are a law unto themselves, for the law has been written on their conscience, now accusing, now releasing them, right? It's written in our conscience. So Romans 1 and 2 give us the two most common forms of general revelation, creation and conscience. But again, we can add reason and imagination and other things as well. But Paul is speaking about that right there. And like I said, the Institutes of the Christian Religion by Calvin begins with the same central distinction between general and special revelation, and understanding, what we can know, right? I remember reading an apologist who said, interestingly, both Aquinas and Calvin believed in the idea of homo religiosus, that we are religious men. And he said, if you can get Aquinas and Calvin to agree on something, it must be true. That's good stuff.